Maybe you and the kids can eat in the kitchen, my mother whispered to me, pointing to my pregnant wife. This day must be perfect for David's new family. I didn't raise my voice. I just smiled, took my wife's hand, and we left. They didn't know that a single automatic payment under my control could change everything. My name is Gabriel. I'm 38 years old, and I'm a real estate agent. I'm good at what I do, very good. I've closed deals that have given me a comfortable life with my wife, Anna, who's 7 months pregnant, and our children, Lucas, 8, and Sophia, 5. But there's something no one knows, not even Anna. For years, I've been paying off my parents' and my sister Clara's debts. My parents' mortgage, my mother's medical bills, Clara's financial mess from a shady business deal. I did it quietly, without expecting a thank you. I thought it was my duty as a son, as a brother. What a mistake. I grew up as the practical son, the one who fixed everything. My younger brother, David, was the favorite, the charismatic one who always shone. No matter what I achieved, my parents, Eduardo and Mariana, put him on a pedestal. When I closed my first big deal, I thought they'd see me differently. They didn't. Every success of mine was ignored, while anything David did was a triumph. I paid their bills because I thought it was the right thing to do. I covered my parents' mortgage when they were about to lose the house, paid off Clara's debts from a collapsed pyramid scheme, and even helped with my mother's medical expenses. They never asked me to, but I did it. They never thanked me, not once. Everything changed on Thanksgiving. My parents always make a circus out of these holidays, but this time was different. David was introducing his new family, his wife, Carla, and her 5-year-old son, Mateo. It was the event of the year for my parents, and I knew Anna, the kids, and I would be sidelined as always. But I didn't expect what happened. We arrived at my parents' house at 3 p.m. Anna, exhausted but smiling, carried a tray of mashed potatoes she'd made. Lucas and Sophia played in the yard, excited to see their grandparents. The house smelled of roasted turkey and spices, but the air was thick with something else, a tension I couldn't ignore. My mother was in the kitchen, barking orders like a general. My father was in his armchair, watching football. Clara was in the dining room, glued to her phone, looking annoyed. Then David arrived with Carla and Mateo. The house transformed. My mother dropped the spoon she was stirring the gravy with and ran to hug them. My father got up, something he rarely does, and gave David a handshake like he was a president. Clara threw herself at Carla with an exaggerated hug, as if they were best friends. They barely glanced at us. Anna and I stood there with the kids, holding the mashed potatoes like extras in a movie about David. We sat at the table. Or rather, they sent us to a corner with uncomfortable chairs and plates that looked like they'd been pulled from a storage closet. David, Carla, and Mateo got the center of the table with the cloth napkins my mother saves for special occasions. The conversation was all about David, his job as a manager in an appliance store, Carla's plans to open a beauty salon, how adorable Mateo was. No one asked about my work, even though I closed a 7-figure deal the week before. No one asked about Anna, the kids, or the baby on the way. We were invisible. Then my mother crossed the line. She leaned toward Anna and, with a fake smile, whispered, "Maybe you and the kids can eat in the kitchen. This day has to be perfect for David's new family." I felt a knot in my stomach, a mix of anger and disbelief. Anna froze, squeezing my hand tightly. Lucas and Sophia, nearby, didn't understand the words but sensed something was wrong. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. I just smiled, took Anna's hand, signaled to the kids to follow, and we left. My parents and Clara looked at us like we were crazy, but I didn't explain. I closed the door and we drove away. The silence in the car was heavy. Anna's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Lucas and Sophia were quiet in the back seat. When we got home, I sat at my computer and made a decision I've been putting off for years. I opened my bank account and, with one click, canceled the automatic payments that kept my parents and Clara afloat. Then I wrote an email, short, no nonsense. I listed every peso I paid, the mortgage, Clara's debts, my mother's medical bills. I said I was done. I sent it and closed the laptop. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the years I'd swallowed their contempt, My father's comments that selling houses was a big deal. My mother asking me not to overshadow David. Every check I signed in silence, thinking it was my duty. But I couldn't keep going. Anna noticed something had changed in me. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me, and I knew she understood. The next day, my phone blew up. Clara left a voicemail screaming that I was selfish. My mother called, crying, saying I was destroying the family. My father didn't bother contacting me, but I could imagine his fury. I didn't answer. I let them vent in my voicemail. I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt, but also certainty. I wasn't going to give in this time. They'd cross a line, and there was no going back. What I didn't know was how they'd react, or how far they'd go to drag me back into their chaos. The next morning, I tried to keep my mind busy. Anna noticed something was weighing on me, but didn't ask. She gave me a look that said she was there for me, and that was enough. That's what I love about her. She knows when to give me space. But my phone wouldn't let me rest. Clara left more messages, alternating between insults and pleas. My mother called again, saying she couldn't sleep, that I was killing her. Even David texted me, trying to sound conciliatory. "Little brother, let's talk. It doesn't have to be like this." I read it and ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk, not with them. By Monday, things got serious. I got an email from the bank. My parents' mortgage was in default. Without my automatic payments, they hadn't covered even 1 month. Then a lawyer contacted me about Clara's debts. The amount she owed was insane, a reminder of a pyramid scheme disaster. It was like watching a train derail in slow motion. I knew this would happen, but I didn't expect it to be so fast. That night, I couldn't keep the truth from Anna anymore. We sat on the couch with the house quiet, and I told her everything. The payments to save my parents' house, the debts I covered for Clara, my mother's medical bills, years of checks signed in silence. I expected her to be angry for not telling her sooner, but she just listened with that calm that always disarms me. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, more sad than upset. "I didn't want to burden you." I admitted. I thought it was my responsibility, that if I didn't do it, everything would fall apart. "Gabriel, they're adults," she said, taking my hand. "It's not your job to save them." Her words hit like a punch. For years, I convinced myself it was my duty to keep them afloat, but Anna was right. I couldn't keep carrying their weight. It gave me a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time, but also left me with a question. How do I handle what's coming? The days that followed were chaos. Clara showed up at my office unannounced, eyes red, hair a mess. She stormed in, yelling, ignoring my assistant, who watched from the reception desk. "You can't do this to me, Gabriel. You're my brother." She accused me of abandoning her, betraying the family, everything she could think of. I tried to calm her, but there was no reasoning with her. She was desperate, and seeing it hurt, but I couldn't give in. I told her to leave, my voice as firm as I could make it. It was hard but necessary. My mother changed tactics. She stopped crying and started with guilt. She called, saying my father was sick, that the stress of the mortgage was killing him. "If they lose the house, it'll be your fault," she said, her voice cutting like glass. I knew she was exaggerating, but her words stuck. It took everything not to call her back, not to give in, but I held firm, even though each day was a battle against a guilt tightening my chest. David was the slyest. He invited me for coffee, saying he wanted to understand my side. I agreed, more out of curiosity than a desire to reconcile. We met at a cafe near my office. He showed up with his usual smile, the one he uses to get his way. He tried to play the mediator, talking about how families should stick together. But when I brought up Thanksgiving, his smile faded. "Come on, Gabriel, it wasn't that big a deal," he said, shrugging. "Mom just wanted Carla and Mateo to feel welcome. Period." "And what about Anna?" I replied, holding back my anger. "What about my kids? She sent them to the kitchen like they were leftovers." David sighed, as if I were the one overreacting. "You always take everything so personally. This isn't about you." That's when I got it. To David, I was just an accessory in his story. I always had been. I stood up, left money for the coffee, and walked out without saying more. On the drive home, I felt a new clarity. I wasn't just cutting off the payments. I was cutting the chains that tied me to them. But the guilt lingered, like background noise I couldn't turn off. Weeks later, the consequences hit hard. The bank started foreclosure on my parents' house. Clara filed for bankruptcy, trapped by her debts. My mother sent me a message saying she was ashamed of me. My father still didn't speak to me, true to his pride. But what surprised me was an email from Carla, David's wife. It was brief, almost formal, asking me to reconsider my decision for Mateo's sake. He's not to blame for this, she wrote. It made me angry. Using a child to manipulate me was a low blow, even for them. Anna kept me grounded. You gave them everything, Gabriel, she said one night while we folded baby clothes. Now it's their turn to face the consequences. Her words gave me strength, but they couldn't erase the guilt that woke me up at 3 a.m., wondering if I'd gone too far. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. It was an elderly neighbor of my parents, someone I'd known since I was a kid. He said my father had a panic attack and my mother was a wreck. He asked me to come see them, that the situation was serious. I wanted to ignore it, but something in me, maybe that loyalty that never fully goes away, made me get in the car and drive to their house. When I arrived, the scene hit like a punch. The house was in chaos. Half-packed boxes, paper scattered on the floor, a damp smell I didn't remember. My mother was on the couch, her face swollen from crying. My father, in his armchair, looked smaller, as if the weight of everything had shrunk him. They didn't greet me. They just looked at me, waiting for me to say something. What do you want me to do? I asked, more tired than angry. Save the house. My mother said, almost begging. It's all we have. I wanted to yell that I wasn't their bank, that they'd had years to fix their finances, that they treated me like garbage. But I didn't. Instead, I said, I'll think about it. It wasn't a promise, just a way to buy time. I left with my chest tight, knowing I couldn't be their lifeline again, but unsure how to move forward. That night, I told Anna everything. She listened as always, and then said something that shifted my perspective. It's not about saving them, Gabriel. It's about saving yourself. Her words gave me an idea. Maybe there was a way to help them without falling back into their game, a way to set clear boundaries and protect my family. But before deciding, I needed to face David one more time. There was something in his attitude, his way of minimizing me, that I couldn't let go. I knew he held the key to understanding why my family always treated me as second best. I called him the next day. We need to talk, I said, giving him no room to refuse. We agreed to meet at the same cafe, but this time, I wasn't going to let him manipulate me. I didn't know that this conversation would make me see my family and myself in a completely new way. But that's for another day. I arrived at the cafe early, nerves on edge. It wasn't just about David. It was about what he represented. Years of being the second best, the one who paid the bills while he got the applause. I sat at a table in the back, ordered a black coffee, and waited. David walked in with his usual smile, the one he uses to smooth over any situation. But this time, it wasn't going to work. "What's up, Gabriel?" he said, sitting down casually. "Still upset about Thanksgiving, huh?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at him, searching his face for any sign that he understood the damage they'd done. There was nothing, just the confidence of someone who's always been the favorite. "It's not just Thanksgiving," I said, my voice calm but firm. "It's everything. Years of being treated like I don't matter while you were the king." David frowned, like he didn't expect that. "Come on, don't be dramatic. Mom and Dad have always been proud of you. It's just, I've had my own problems, and they want to help me." "Help you?" I said, almost laughing. "I've paid their mortgage, Clara's debts, Mom's medical bills. And you, what have you done for them besides show up with your new family and get applause?" For the first time, I saw David thrown off. His smile vanished and his eyes narrowed. "I didn't know that," he muttered. But he didn't sound sorry, just annoyed, as if my sacrifice inconvenienced him. "Look, Gabriel, I didn't ask you to do any of that. If you did it, that was your choice. That was the moment. Something in me broke, but not out of anger, out of clarity. David didn't just not know, he didn't care. To him, I was the brother who fixed problems, the one who'd always be there to clean up the mess. But no more. Exactly, I said, leaning toward him. It was my choice. And now I choose to stop. No more payments, no more favors. If you want to be the family hero, go ahead, but don't count on me. I stood up, leaving the coffee half drunk. David tried to say something, but I didn't listen. I walked out of the cafe, heart racing, not from anger, but from a feeling of finally taking control. That night, I told Anna about David, how his reaction confirmed what I'd suspected. My family never valued me, not because they couldn't, but because they didn't want to. Anna listened, as always, and then said, "You can't change them, Gabriel, but you can choose how to live your life." Her words gave me the push I needed. For days, I'd been wrestling with how to handle my parents and Clara, the visit to their house, the chaos, my mother's pleas. It had left me with a guilt I couldn't shake. But Anna was right. It wasn't about saving them. It was about saving myself. I decided to make one final offer, but on my terms. I called a lawyer friend and asked him to draft an agreement. It was simple. I'd give them a one-time fund, enough for my parents to rent a modest apartment for a year, and for Clara to hire a bankruptcy lawyer. In exchange, they'd sign a document agreeing there'd be no more financial help, ever. I also set a clear condition. They had to respect my family. No more disparaging comments, no more favoritism, no more treating Anna or my kids as less. If they didn't comply, contact was over. I arranged a meeting at a neutral restaurant, a place where no one could make a scene. My parents, Clara, and David were there. The tension was palpable. My mother's eyes were red, like she'd been crying all morning. My father sat with his arms crossed, looking at me like I was a stranger. Clara barely lifted her gaze from the table. David, true to form, tried to act like everything was fine, but his smile was strained. I spoke first, as calmly as I could. I explained the agreement, the money I was offering, the conditions. "This is the last thing I'll do for you," I said. "Take it or leave it. But if you want to be part of my life, you have to respect my family. Anna, Lucas, Sophia, the baby on the way. If you can't, there's no more contact." My mother spoke first. "Gabriel, how can you do this to us? We're your family," she said, her voice trembling. "No, Mom," I replied. "You never treated me like family. It was always David. Always him. I was just the one who paid the bills." My father, who'd been silent until then, scoffed. "You were always selfish," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You were never like David. He has a heart." Those words cut like a knife, but they didn't surprise me. There was the truth I'd always suspected. My father didn't just refer David. He saw me as a threat, someone whose success challenged his authority, his control over the family. For years, I believed that if I did enough, paid enough, I'd earn their respect. But they never would. I didn't respond. It wasn't worth it. I looked at Clara, hoping she'd say something, but she just lowered her head. David tried to step in with his conciliatory tone. "Come on, Gabriel, we can work this out. We're brothers." "No, David," I said, "we're not brothers. We're strangers who share parents. And I'm tired of being the one who always gives in." I left the envelope with the agreement and the check on the table. "You have until tomorrow to decide," I said. "If you don't sign, the money's gone." I stood up and walked out without looking back. For the first time, I didn't feel guilt, just relief. The next day, I received the signed agreement by mail. No messages, no calls, no apologies, just my parents' and Clara's signatures, except in conditions. David didn't sign anything. I guess he didn't need to, but I didn't care. I'd done what I had to do. The weeks that followed were strangely calm. My parents moved into a small apartment. Clara hired a lawyer and started dealing with her bankruptcy. I heard nothing from David or Carla, and that was fine. For the first time in years, my life felt like mine. I focused on my work, on Anna, on the kids. The nursery for the baby was almost ready, and every time I felt a kick in Anna's belly, it reminded me what really mattered. One day, while reviewing contracts, I got a message from my mother. It was brief. Thank you for the money. We're okay. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I closed that chapter. Months later, our son was born. We named him Mateo, a wry nod to Carla's son, but also because Anna had always loved the name. The day I brought him home, with Lucas and Sophia running around, excited about their new brother, I looked at Anna and knew I'd made the right choice. My family, my real family, was here. I don't know what will happen with my parents or Clara. Maybe one day we'll talk. Maybe not, but I'm not worried anymore. I've learned I can't change them, but I can choose how to live. And I choose Anna, Lucas, Sophia, Mateo. I choose peace. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments, and subscribe for more daily stories.